Okay, so now there are three videos what you have sent, or three information what you have sent, right? One
Sure.
is one YouTuber, first video, then the other YouTuber, second video, and like that,
And third video.
and the third
Yes.
video,
Yes.
right?
So I watched the third video for like 10 minutes. It makes me stomach really hurts. It's like cringing on my stomach. It's like really tight. It hurts.
Right.
I'm wondering what's going on.
Oh, that's okay. That happens. So now let's go to the first YouTuber. Before we jump into the YouTuber or anything like that, we need to understand what is Vedanta and what is non-dual. Okay. In the terms of English, because it's more for the West, it's called as non-dual. But Vedanta has got nothing to do with non-dual. It is called Advaitha. Okay, that is Dvaita in the sense that dual means that you exist, your experience exists, and the consciousness also exists, meaning you and consciousness are two separate things. So what I mean to say is, as an experience of Vilas, it's an experience, okay? And that experience is different from what Aryu experiences or somebody else experiences. I care a damn about what you experience. I care a lot about my experience. So what it really means is that I have an individual consciousness, and then I believe that that consciousness is the one which goes from one body to another body, and sometimes it's referred as Atma or a soul. Okay, so this is what Dvaita, duality, means. Advaita means that there is no soul which is fixed, just like what Buddha teaching is all about. There's no soul which is fixed. As long as the condition matches, the consciousness takes the right? Now comes the difference between the Buddha Dhamma and the Advaita, which is non-dual. Okay. Buddha puts it as 5 aggregates, and in the non-dual, it is indicated as Jagat, which is the world, and Jivi, which is the being, and Ishvara, which is the consciousness. Okay. Now, if we were to bucketize actually the Buddha teaching and the Vedanta, you will find the same solution. It is Rupa, which is Jagat. Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara is the Jivi, which is the being, and Vijnana is Ishvara. So you got it? So all same.
Yes, got it.
Right?
Easy.
Now, the difference between the Vedantic way of doing it and the Buddha way of doing it is the Buddha has steps. Perfect steps. That is, he says Sila, Samadhi, Panya. Okay? In the Vedanta of Shankaracharya, you also have steps, but that steps slightly go here and there. Meaning what I try to say is that there are 4 foundations what somebody has to put. So he says that you need to have viveka, discrimination between real and unreal. Buddha also talks about real and unreal. Okay, so that is same. Then he talks about vairagya, which is dispassion. And in Pali it is called viraga. Same one?
Same thing.
Okay. Then there is Shad Sampatti, there is 6 treasures. And Buddha talks about Indriya Samvara, which is part of the 6 things. Okay. Then urgency for liberation. And Buddha also talks about urgency for liberation. Clear? So now, in the Buddha practice, the Sila, Samadhi, Panya go in an order, right? So you know you're establishing Sila, then you verify the Samadhi is happening or not, and then you get wisdom of what is real and what is unreal. Whereas in the Vedanta, it starts with the consciousness itself, not from the pain. It doesn't take pain into consideration, or the suffering into consideration, or dukkha into consideration. What Buddha rejected the view is that if you were to go from Brahman, you will never be able to experience the pain, right? Everybody wants to have happiness. Nobody wants to get into pains, right? So a person generally, normally, who gets into Advaitha or non-dual does not really understand what is the teaching of Vedanta, because there's so much of information. Okay?
Yes.
So what Buddha did is to have a real formal, a better way of looking at it. So he started with the observing the pain one takes, right? And that,
Which is more tangible, and can be described.
Whereas if you look from consciousness, you really don't know what is consciousness.
Right.
So it becomes like an abstract notion to say that, oh, okay,
Yes.
this is consciousness, and that is nibbana or nirvana in the Sanskrit word, and then Brahman and all that. So it becomes a very jargon related rather than an experience related. Okay. So when I see the first YouTube blogger, what you have sent, it's just abstract classes. If I were to use software programming, it just abstract classes, doesn't have any implementation there. Right.
Sure, it doesn't mean that the teaching can be implemented, but I'm mostly curious about the experience.
And now how do you
That's what I'm
experience?
curious
Now
about.
how do you experience? There is a lot more things to be done in Vedanta than lot more things to be done in Buddha teaching. Okay, now what?
No, I'm curious about the person's own experience.
No, wait a second, I'll tell you. If the senses were to be withdrawn from the sense objects, you will experience the same thing what you would experience in the Buddha Dhamma.
Yes.
Okay, but the method is different. The way to get into it is different. The way you get into meditation or investigation or analysis or whatever you want to do on Vedanta, non-dual, is totally different than what you do in the Buddhist or the Buddha's teaching. So
Sure.
both of them take you to the same destination. What's the destination? Your mind shouldn't move, right? That's the end result. If the mind is moving, it's moving with the five senses. If it moves with the five senses, you get perception of those five senses. And if you get perception of those five senses, you get feeling of those five senses, right? So then you get two feelings. One, you get a pleasant feeling, and one, you get a painful feeling. And then you don't want painful, you want the pleasurable feeling, which cannot happen. So you end up being in the dukkha cycle. Vedanta also talks the same way. But the method to be followed is two different things. End result is the same. So if you were to ask me, has that person, this person, that YouTube fellow, this YouTube fellow, have they experienced Nibbana or Nirvana? The straightforward answer is, if the senses are withdrawn from the sense objects and he doesn't feel nor perceive anything at all, then he has experienced Nibbana. Now the question comes, okay, then I am a Sotapanna, I have never do. So it goes into a unnecessary cycle of confusions. So at any point in time, whoever it is, let us not define whether it's a Sotapanna, Sakadagami, Anagami, Arhat, or whatever it is. Let's drop all of those concepts. What you and I need to see for ourselves is that, is there a point in our life ever, from the time we have started following whomever we are following, we got that peace where the five senses and the mind were withdrawn? Okay, and you feel you really feel nothing about anything around it, and you're totally involved with whatever is happening. If that is true, then you have experienced Nibbana to that extent. Okay. Now the question comes, can't I do that for all the time or all this way and that way? That is dependent on the Sila, Samadhi, Panya and all that. Same thing happens on the Vedanta. Yeah, go ahead.
No, so yes, I think I understand mostly what you're saying. Although my curiosity is around a lot of non-duality teacher, not specific this one or that one. Because many of them are saying they're established in non-duality, whatever that means, right? So, but sometimes you can obviously see from them they're still raga, dvesha, moha, and however they're speaking, even though they're saying they're established in non-duality. So I'm just curious, what does that even mean for them to feel that they often say it's even also part of the experience. They're all it's like always there, but it's obviously not nibbana because in nibbana they wouldn't be talking about these things, right? So I'm curious, what is that? Does that mean? Well, what's they're experiencing?
See, they're experiencing a sort of peace, which is not really peace. Okay. But
Okay.
then they feel that they have experienced it because now I come into existence. When I comes into existence, it is already gone.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, now what is I? The definition of I from the Vedanta and definition of I from Buddha. Buddha talks it as 5 aggregates, but the in the Vedanta, the I is all about the 5 senses. Okay. So what Buddha has done is, since this becomes an abstract thing, the Vedanta, he made it even more easier. So he said rupa. When you see a form, okay, so you get a feeling. Feeling, how do you get a feeling? Through 5 senses only. He didn't really name it as, oh, you know what, you means 5 senses. Right? But Vedanta defines clearly that you means 5 senses. And the 6th sense is the mind, which adds everything up. And that's what even Buddha says. So now the Vedana is the feeling. I'm getting through the senses only. I cannot get anything outside the senses anyway. So that's the senses. And the perception I'm getting is through the objects. And the sankharas, I'm doing it on these objects along with the senses. And the vijnana is the magician, wherein this consciousness makes what one feels experience that. Right? So Vedanta talks from one single as a 5 senses plus mind, whereas Buddha distributes that in a very nice fashion, becomes easy, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now if I've already experienced the non-dual of, wow, I'm not a sense, I'm essentially nothing, it's exactly what he would fall in place as a Sotapanna in Buddha teaching.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Then comes the Sakadagami. Now, how does one become Sakadagami in the Vedantic teaching? Is that he or she, after seeing, oh, this body is not mine and this mind is not mine, I am somehow something different than the body and the mind. So I'm pure consciousness. So I will then say Satchidananda. That is, Sat is the truth. Chit is the consciousness. Ananda is the bliss. Okay. The truth is always blissful. Okay. And that is what Nibbana or Nirvana is all about. So now what happens here is that if I were to drop the body and the mind concepts from so-called myself, then the person goes away. That is no soul or no personality in Vedanta. Okay, then what happens is you feel really blissful at all the time, which is equivalent to what that blogger is saying, that I feel it all the time. Got it?
Okay. So just to clarify, in Sakadagami, you are kind of, is it some kind of, it's not related to jhana specifically, but you're able to feel some level of dispassion toward the 5 aggregate all the time.
Correct. So what happens is that you become non-possessive oriented. That's a better way to put it. There's no possession.
Okay.
Okay, and that is the reason. That's the reason Buddha says that this person who is a Sakadagami would have his the Kamachanda Vyapada to a very less level. Why?
Okay.
Because you will get the Kamachanda, the sensual fondness or desire to possess, if there is possession orientation. If there's no possession orientation, what's the point in feeling that I need to have this, right?
Okay.
And if you don't possess, then you will not have any interest in feeling hurt about it also, because you're not possessing both. You're not possessing this, you're not possessing that. So you're fairly released from the burden, from the pain of holding it.
Okay. So Sakadagami means at all the time you're able to see the five aggregates as anatta.
Yes.
And so you don't possess it, although you can still want karma to feel nicer. So you still, let's say, would want to see good sights, but you kind of see it as others. So the attachment is much lesser, but it doesn't mean it's not there.
Yes. So this is the second one, right? So the third one, and come to anagami, what happens? It completely drops off. Okay. Now, what is the meaning of completely dropping off? Now I will tell my story, so it becomes easy for you that how I am able to make out. Earlier I made out that I was able to find out that I was not an anagami. Now I feel, oh, it's just there, right? So what really made that? What really made that difference?
Sure. Yes.
It's not that I was possessing something at that time. The possession orientation was not there, but when I see an object, the object, I was able to make out that object. And then because you make out that object, or I make out that object, I feel liked by that object or repelled by that object, right? Now, that is very subtle, but it's there. Now, from the last 3-4 days, if I could really say, I no longer feel that.
Could it be the situation is not there?
No. Yesterday, while I was coming from the walk, I was seeing everything like a vegetable.
So as the four dhatu, basically.
Yes, more like that. So I was finding out, oh my goodness, what a pain, what a pity that we had to hold this vegetable and see so attracted by the vegetable or repelled by the vegetable. So I am feeling that. I'm not feeling, I'm experiencing that. And when I say I am experiencing, who is this experience? Now let's quickly split it up and see, right? So now, so that becomes clear. Rupa is experienced by the Vedana, right? And perceived by the Sanya. Then through Sankhara. And Vijnana makes that possible. Clear? And now I'm seeing the Rupa as vegetable. So that there's no feeling. There's a neutral feeling now. Right? How do I get it? So now let me give you a complete roundabout to that. So there is a, which we had already covered. So let's forget what we had covered. I'll just tell you 3 lines there. So he says, the avijja samudayo, rupa samudayo, avijja nirodho, rupa nirodho. So what it really means is that out of ignorance that this body is made out of fuel, food, I think there's a person, right? So now I know there's no person, it's just a vegetable. I cook, there's a cooking, and then eating, digesting, and then the question comes, wow, we know that. That was my intellectual insight. Now I have the real insight. That means the vision arose that, this is really that only. Now that means avijja samudayo, rupa samudayo, avijja nirodho, rupa nirodho. Then the second one. What's the second one? Tanha samudayo, rupa samudayo, tanha nirodho, rupa nirodho. That means when I see this body is really a vegetable. There is no craving. Then what's the third one? Kamma samudayo, rupa samudayo, kamma nirodho, rupa nirodho. That means I'm not doing any kamma or action or a deed to possess this body or possess some other body, because again a vegetable, right? Then the fourth one, ahara samudayo, rupa samudayo, ahara nirodho, rupa nirodho. That means food is the basis for the rupa to arise. If the food is stopped, the rupa is going to stop. Then nibbati lakkana samudayo, rupa samudayo, nibbata lakkana nirodho, rupa nirodho. That means the next body which is going to take place is dependent upon how I am making that, how the consciousness is making that. Now that it is not making out anything out of that rupa, so there is no nibbati lakkana, that is, it will manifest, right? So now we can see. Now, why this was not seen?
Quick question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Quick question. So in the first one where you say avijja samudaya, rupa samudaya, that doesn't mean that when avijja goes away, it doesn't mean the rupa, which is part of the apo tejo vayo, wouldn't be there. The rupa, the four dhatu is there, but the
That
perception
dhatu is there.
of the rupa isn't there.
No, the dhatu is there, but aryu is not there.
Okay, so the rupa here isn't strictly means the parapiapo.
No. That will
tejo
remain.
vayo.
That is the only thing which will remain. See, when I see someone, when I say a pretty girl, let's take that as an example. The prettiness is what? What is there in the mind, not the girl.
Yes.
Right?
But that's not the rupa. That's the Vedana and Sanya, right?
But
the prettiness is the Vedana.
Prettiness is the Vedana seeing the rupa.
Okay, sure.
Right. So it's already distorted.
Sure, okay.
Right. So when I say
I guess my question is just what I understand as rupa is what you
the
said.
four elements are seen as four element, and hence there is no avijja. That's a better way to put it.
Okay. Got it.
Okay.
Yes.
So because of that, there's no tanha, because what will you have tanha for four elements? It's just like a body is lying on the floor. What would you do with that?
Yes.
You wouldn't keep it anyway, right? Because there's no movement there.
Yes.
Right? So that is exactly the experience. Now, if I could take this experience in every given state, then anagami.
I see.
Right?
So quick question.
Yeah.
Let's say 2-3 weeks ago, you didn't see everything as vegetable as you today see it, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So it's like happened a few days ago when you start seeing that.
Yes.
Right. Okay. So that's why the other day when you see the girl, there's a perception of the girl. But today, if you see the same girl, it's just vegetable. It's part of it.
Yes.
Okay.
It doesn't mean that I didn't know back then. I knew it was mainly as a conceptual reality rather than what I really now experience. So what's the difference between this water bottle and a girl? I don't see any difference no longer now. Even though it has the same kind of shape, so if I could remove the background thing, 1 second. If I could do that, I can then show you what I'm trying to say. 1 minute, change background. Then for a time being, let me put this guy.
Yeah, I see a little bit of that green bottle. I didn't see it.
Now you're seeing the whole bottle, right?
Yes.
So this is the head portion, this is the breast portion, this is the buttocks portion. I would love, wow, it's so nice. Now I see it like a bottle. It doesn't really. So what?
Very nice.
Now the question comes, am I seeing this all the time? Yes. The last few days, yes, 100%. So before I make a proclamation that, yes, I have reached it, I'm trying to test it on everything I'm seeing. Okay?
Very cool.
And so that's a difference. And because of that, my Dhamma has improved much better than what it used to be.
How so?
Right? So, how so means that the depth at which I can go is far better than what I used to go.
Any example?
And the same sutta, the Phena Pindupama Sutta, if I were to take, let us say, foam. Now I can see foam in everything. Earlier, I need to put effort. It is now effortless, right? It's an effortless exercise.
I see.
Right. So now the question comes is that do you have to put effort, which is a pain, and then there's no effort, there's no pain. So now there's no effort required. Right. So when I'm doing
So today,
yeah, go ahead.
Today in your talk, you say there's no pain for me. I think you said that. Like
Yes.
for me, you said for me there's no pain. So you mean the pain has gone because you're now not putting any effort in anything.
Not at all. No effort.
Nice.
Right.
Nice.
So now I'm cycling. Now it's a downhill. So I don't have to cycle. Just can enjoy the ride.
Very cool. But isn't that until Arhat you still have dukkha?
No, that will be there. The pain here is that to maintain that state no longer has to be there, right? Now, hold on for a second. Till you reach Arahat, the pain, that is a complete pain, right? And that's not going to go away. But at every stage, your level of pain, which you're going to take, keeps on reducing.
Yes.
Right? So when anagami stage is attained, you feel really that there's no pain. The arm twisting is not there. But it is there. Subtly it's there. I know it is there.
Okay.
But
so you're saying it reduced from 100 to like say 0.1. So it's almost like
why I will tell you. The papancha sanya sankha doesn't happen.
I see. Okay.
That's exactly what I explained yesterday. That it doesn't happen, and hence there is no pain. See, I'll give you some very practical examples. Now, Ukraine and Russia problem is one problem. Then some other country's problem, America and some other country problem, and then the cash flow problem. Then you have oil problem. Then you have education problem. You have so many problems, right? So all of these are what? Are they really a problem, or are they papancha sanya sankha? When you really penetrate papancha sanya sankha, you will feel relieved because you don't, it doesn't affect you.
Yes. So today, when I see that, right, there still be perception, but because I know Dhamma, I know not to get into it. So there's effort taken to drop that.
Yes.
So if I drop that, there's viraga. But for you, it doesn't require effort to drop it.
That's what I say.
Right.
Yes. So that doesn't mean that I've become an arahat. That doesn't mean anything, because the moment I put a label that I'm an anagami, now the expectation starts, which is again papancha sanya sankha. So when I have to do, what I have to do is to remove the papancha. So I have to make it as nippapancha. See, Buddha also uses that word, nippapancha. That means don't create a story around it. If I create a story, if I create a story around the nibbana or an anagami, it's a story what I'm making, which is burden, which is a pain. So what should I be seeing? If I were to say I have reached anagami state, what it should be? You're seeing everything as a vegetable, simple, as simple as that, or as a table or a chair or whatever it is, with life being there. So let me give you a very even more practical example. A tree is there, and a human is there, and an animal is there. What's the difference between all the three of them? All the three requires food, right? Okay, great. Tree cannot speak, animal can speak, human can speak. Clear?
Like Jivit Indriya, right? Like what you're
Jivit
saying.
Indriya. So now the tree has one kind of Jivit Indriya, the animal has another kind of Jivit Indriya, human has another kind of Jivit Indriya. But the 5 senses and the 6 sense doors are there in the animal, are there in the human being, but not developed in the tree. Okay. Now, what do I do with the tree? I can pluck the fruit, which is equivalent to looking at a pretty girl, because the fruit over there looks pretty than the tree.
Yeah.
Right? So when I look at the fruit, or a mango, or a orange, or if I take a apple or pear or whatever it is, I can see the fruit is so nice to eat. So when I see a girl, I'm eating, I'm having mano sanchetana ahara. Basically, in the mind, I'm eating that girl. So today, I know that it is just a fruit. There's no person out there. Right? So that's a difference which has happened between the previous and now. So what it really means, that I'm not seeing any difference between the tree, the plant, or the animal and a human being, because they all are coming into growth, maturity, decay, and death due to what? Due to the seed.
Yes.
And they're taking ahara, food. Without the food, they won't be doing anything. So now that has opened up a better way of understanding than what was it few years ago, or a few months ago, a few days ago, whatever it is, right? Now when
Very
that
cool.
happens, yeah, go ahead.
Quick question. So in your state, there's no papancha sannyasanga, and in a Vedic sanya Vedic nirodha, there's also no that, right? So
Yes.
what's the difference between your state and that state?
I would expect that question from you. So in the Sanya Vedita Nirodha, you will withdraw everything. So that means there is only life faculty existing in the six senses. Nothing else exists. So that is a state when you go through jhanik. So Buddha explains by 4 methods you can enter into Cheto Vimukti. Okay. First method is this. That is, you don't have perception, you don't have feeling. But that's a state of the mind in jhana. So if somebody comes and shakes you up, there is no life except for Jivitindriya. That is there in Mahavedala Sutta. Now there is second way of doing it, is that I'm interacting with people. But while interacting with people, I'm in the state of 4 Brahma Viharas. That means I'm having metta, karuna, mudita, upekka. Now what really that means is that I have literally made my mind to be in the Brahma Loka. And through that I can attain Cheto Vimukti. Then I can do the...
But doesn't mean the beings in the Brahma Loka is in Cheto Vimukti, right?
No, they're not. So they're not. So now the question comes, how do I attain that? And how do you attain that is by removing Raga, Dvesha, Moha. So that's the reason there are 4 separate methods. So now we need to practice. Preeti has already asked me, how do we practice the 4 Brahma Viharas? So 1 class or 2 class or 3 class, as many classes that we can do it. After we come to some state, okay, or some stage. And we can do it step by step. Then the third one, we will park this aside. And the third one is by the 7th jhana, okay, which is akinchayatana. Nothingness. What is nothingness there? There's no home. Actually, none of the senses have any home. See, now this has to be experienced. And if you really experience it, you'll see shunya, emptiness.
Okay.
There's not even a kincha. Kincha means little. Akincha means not even little. That means there is no home for any senses.
Okay.
This is the third way. And the fourth way of Cheto Vimukti is through eliminating Raga, Dvesha, Moha.
Okay. Yes.
Right? So these are the four stages. Now those people who can enter into 8 jhana, Buddha added the 9 jhana. What does that mean is, I keep on watching breath as in the sense of knowing that how much of the life faculty is going away from the nose. and looking from anicca, because then you can really experience anicca and you can see the dukkha. That means these five senses can get established anywhere if not careful, right? And then whatever has been done so far and whatever will be done in the future is asara, essenceless, which is anatta. So now we can see the anicca, dukkha, anatta in the breath. So when that happens, the mind withdraws from the senses. It doesn't really do anything with the senses. So for those people who are on jhanic, then the ninth jhana, where there is no need to be having perception and feeling. Then what it means really is the mind uses the energy. There is no usage of energy at all. So your breath stops. Right? So there is no in breath, there is no out breath. So you have kaya sankhara is completely ended, vachi sankhara is ended, and mano sankhara is ended. Now what is vedana is the six senses. What is perception? Six sense object. So we shouldn't forget that.
Okay. A quick question before I forget. So when you describe the Vedic Sanya Vedic Nirodha, like you're saying there's no Vedana and Sanya. So even when earlier when I was practicing the Chula Shunyata Sutta, when you go to this world of sand, right, that almost also feel like there's very little feeling and perception due to, because everything is almost not there, right?
Yes.
So in this regard, is similar between the fourth and ninth jhana. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
And that's the reason in many of the suttas, Buddha doesn't explain the arupa jhanas. In some of the suttas, he explains the arupa jhanas. Right? So why? Why? Because when you're in fourth jhana, you automatically stop multiplying the perceptions. You stop the feeling. Because there is no feeling, there is no multiplication of perceptions. What is multiplication of perception is that same body called by different names.
Okay.
Right? So now Aryu as Aryu is just a body, but he's called Aryu. Then somebody calls you father, somebody calls you a husband, somebody calls you something, and I call you as a Dhamma friend, somebody will call you colleague, and all that fun things is happening, but none of that is you. But you get a perception that is you. So there's multiplicity of things, because there is a feeling that you are Aryu, and because you're Aryu, and then all of these things are going to happen. So what if you lose the perception and feeling of being what you are? Absolutely fair. So coming back to our question is, the YouTube blogger one, when he has put Brahma.
No. Sorry. The last question hasn't been answered. So what's the difference between your state and the Chitta Vimutti?
What do you mean by that? See, my state and this state, I don't know how to explain that. It is, you don't have to do the papancha, but that doesn't mean that you can't interact with the world. And then the ninth jhana is not interacting with the world at all.
Okay. So you're saying in Chitta Vimutti, even Buddha, when he wants to interact with the world, he has to come to similar to where you are now to interact. Right. But after that, he immediately goes back to
that is what he explains in the Chula Shunyata Sutta. And there is a Maha Shunyata Sutta also, where he says that, look, I'm withdrawing from everyone and I'm going and sitting in the hut. Don't disturb me.
Okay. So the difference is that you cannot go to Chitta Vimutti at will like Buddha could in our path. Where any moment he can go to Chitta Vimutti. You still require condition to go there.
Correct. And then that, in the case of Arhat, there is no condition. So in most of the suttas.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
No. Okay. Just a very small, quick question, because when we're discussing the fourth jhana and the ninth, right? In fourth, there's almost no Vedana and Sanya. So you can almost go to the say where there's zero Vedana and Sanya. But still, Buddha said the fifth jhana is more subtle, more sublime than the fourth.
Because there is a perception of the rupa.
Of Kadavi. I see.
In the fifth jhana, there is no attaining.
Okay, got it. Cool. Yes. Okay. Sorry.
No, that's
Do you
okay.
still remember the last thing you were talking?
No, that's okay. Absolutely fine. So now this is what the Dhamma is all about. And through Vedanta also you can come to that. But it's a long process than what Buddha Dhamma is, which is a short process. Other than that, everything remains the same. So if somebody is already experiencing it, how do you know? From his talks, he should be able to tell you the step by step, how did he get it?
But not everyone can explain it. Not like many of the non-dual teachers, they sometimes get there, but they're not quite able to
And
explain
that's the
it. But
problem. That's the problem with non-dual.
okay.
Because they attain it, but they cannot put it. How did they attain it?
Mhm.
Right? And that is the problem.
Okay. So all the teachers who claim they're always in non-duality, if they're honest, right? Let's say they're honest, it means they're probably experiencing what Sagatagami would be experiencing.
Yes.
Where all the five khandha are seen as anatta.
Yes, they're seeing as anatta, so they feel very peaceful at heart. Now, whether they are in Cheto Vimukti or not, we can't say, because there is no demonstrative document or evidence to say that what steps they did follow to get into that. So either we have to agree to what they say or to disagree to what they say. That's all it is.
Okay. But let's say in the case of, let's say, Eckhart Tolle, right? Let's say he would say everything is only now. There's no past and future. So in that, what he claims seemed to be more subtler than what Sakadagami would experience,
Yes.
right? That seemed to more close to Cheto Vimukti.
Yes, he would, in my opinion, he is in between an anagami and arhat state.
Okay.
So he has moved past being an anagami.
Okay. Because in the anagami state, let's say you're today, would you, in your perception, there's no past and future, or there's subtle past and future?
No, you will really see there was no past and the future. You will see it for yourself.
When you're in Chitta Vimukti, yes, you see that, right? But in your normal experience today, right now,
in the
is there past and future?
in the normal experience, you know there is a past. And if you really see all the Buddha Sutta, he says, when I was a normal person in the past, right? So he knows, right? There is a past.
No. I mean, in your current experience,
I'm also
do you
talking about
see that there's no past and future, like
you will
in Chitta Vimukti state with it?
No, there is a past and there is a future. Simple. But
Sure.
But you will not hold on to it. That there's a past. This is my past and this is the future, right? But for
Okay.
What we can say, for just conversation, you would have to say that when I was this, when I was that. So that's the past.
Okay. Yeah, no, I understand that. I understand from the conventional point of view, you have to use that. But I was just referring
You
to,
don't
like,
feel
say,
that.
experience.
You don't really feel that.
Right. So in my experience of, like, the very short experience of, let's say, similar to anatta, I exactly understand what Eckhart Tolle means by there's only now.
Correct.
I feel like there's only now.
Correct.
So that's basically what you're currently experiencing all the time.
Exactly. That is how you would see it. That is how you start seeing the world. That is how you start seeing yourself also.
Okay.
So that would be a drastic change from what you would be seeing. So you are much at peace because there is no burden now.
So one does not necessarily have to go to Cheto Vimukti to experience that there's only now, because you're not exactly in that, and then you can experience that.
So what then happens is that you can now attain Cheto Vimukti by either of the four means. Right? Whenever you want. Let's say there is nobody to talk to me, then I can withdraw. When there is somebody to talk to me, I cannot say I'm in the Cheto Vimukti and also speaking. The senses are moving, right? You are asking me question and I'm answering to you. So there is so much of body movement. There is so much of mind movement. There is so much of verbal movement. And it will be foolishness to say that, no, I'm in Cheto Vimukti, but still no.
Yes, right. Even the Buddha cannot be in that state
Nobody.
if he wants to talk.
Nobody.
Yes.
So here there would be a drastic change in interaction, because you find that interacting with people is really painful, and you don't want to lose that happiness what you have gained, right?
Right. So it's similar to when I go to the Chula Sunyata Sutta, when I was in that world of sin. If my alarm ring, I just don't want to come back. It's a lot of feeling and perception again.
Yes.
That's the feeling you get. It's like stressful to come back.
Exactly.
I'd rather just be there.
Yes. So you'll start to feel the relief from suffering. So what are we trying to address is, we are trying to address the pain which one has to take due to separating oneself from everything. Right? So you will start to feel oneness in everything, because you will see that everybody is suffering the same. There's no much difference. So you will feel, okay, that is also suffering, this is also suffering. So there's nothing called as his suffering is more than my suffering, or her suffering is more than my suffering. It will be treated as suffering. Okay, now...
Sorry. Which stage you can feel that?
At any stage, you can start feeling it from Sakadagami to Arhat.
Okay, got it. Are you checking something?
I'm trying to check your thing. 1 minute. I'm searching for your questions so that I don't forget.
Oh, okay.
And there was somebody who had messaged me, so I was looking at that also. 1 minute. I don't know what's happening.
No problem. Yeah, I think we've greatly touched upon Sakadagami, so we can just finish that up. I have just a few small questions left on that. And then maybe we can go to the second YouTuber or whatever, the breath thing. That's not as important.
No,
we don't have to do it as part of the stream also.
No, that's all what is in Sakadagami. You don't possess. So then what will not possess, you'll not possess anything, basically.
Okay. So I just talk about from my understanding, right? So the other day when I was hearing your talk on the 5 khandhas, I was contemplating again. No, actually after you say, ask the question why we're not striving. So I feel more motivation to strive. So I really try to look into the 5 khandhas, right? So I think I start to penetrate a little bit better. So I start to look at Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana, each of the 5. I ask, is it anicca or not? And after seeing anicca, and I ask, is it dukkha if I take it as mine? And after that, I ask if it's anatta. So for each of them, when I penetrate a little bit into each of them, I feel a little bit of dispassion from each one. How much you penetrate, how much viranga you would get from each, right? So my understanding, if I keep penetrating and until all the time they're seen as anatta, then I'm at anagami. So
yes.
That's the...
Yes, absolutely. You have got it right.
Okay. So from your perspective and from your understanding of me, what could be the things that I are more lacking? Or
no, it is not about
other than what I just
no. It is not about more lacking. You need to keep on hitting here, hitting there, and then it just opens up, right? So, which I feel you're doing it. You also know it. You're far better than what you used to be 1 year ago. Say. You know it for yourself.
Yes.
I don't have to certify or say that, hey, you are at this level. You yourself know it. So all the time I've been stressing to everyone that you don't have to go and ask anyone. You will yourself come to know. If it is a proper Dhamma, you will yourself come to know. Nobody has to certify. And I'm 100% certain, that you know where you are right now. Because the second video and the third video, what you have sent, you're not liking it.
Yes. Okay, yes.
Which clearly shows.
It just makes me stomach really cringe up. Like it hurts so much.
Yes.
I just feel it so hard.
And then you're not convinced on the first video also what you've sent.
Yes, right.
Right? So now let's take an assessment. If you were a normal person, you would have gone with all the 3 videos,
Sure.
and then you would have liked it.
Sure.
Okay. Then if you are slightly developed at a Sotapanna level, you would have felt odd, but you would have felt that, okay, maybe possible. Now, if you are at Sakadagami or nearing Sakadagami, you feel disgusted. And which is what you're feeling
I see.
now. So last year...
Well, I listened to the content of the second or third video. It seemed like makes sense. I know conceptually he's going from Advaitha Matana Yoga to Kamasuka and Vikana Yoga. So, but I'm not like feeling disgust of hearing that content, but my stomach like really feels it.
No,
it's
why,
not like
why,
I don't think I feel it.
No, why I'll tell you. See, let's take Osho. All his discourses says that you should be indulging in that rather than not indulging it. So he either goes to one extreme or the other extreme, right? So this is the major problem. Buddha also noticed this. Either you go to one extreme to other extreme. So earlier, a person will say, you have to do this, you have to drop this, you have to drop that, you have to drop this and all that. And then after some time he says, no, you shouldn't be dropping that, you should be indulging in it.
Yes, okay. Yeah, I feel like he keep going back and forth.
Exactly.
Because they don't know the middle path. And so keep jumping.
This is what is the problem with Vedanta or with yoga or with this or with that, because they either have to go to one of the extreme. And they get fixed there. So now they have to leave that and come to another extreme now.
Doesn't mean they cannot jump back and forth. It just takes longer because they stick to one side for longer than they have to.
That's exactly what I explained yesterday or this morning for you, is that, well, it's possible, but it's longer. Right?
Yes. Okay.
So when you have something which is step-by-step instruction, an instruction manual which is so clear, why would you go and configure something which is so difficult? Unless you are looking at DIY, do it yourself.
Yes.
So I don't know, if I were that person, I would have dumped everything and then exactly put in place whatever is there. Right?
Right. So sorry, going back to the third video when you're making a comment about that, you're saying the guy, so I feel disgusted instinctively. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. So you wouldn't feel disgusted if you have not penetrated the Dhamma.
Okay.
What he's saying is good, but it is not
Dhamma.
what I can say. You cannot gain anything out of doing that. Basically, if I were to say, so let's say I'm feeling compelled to have sex with 10 people. And if I go by that, I need to keep on doing that.
Exactly.
As simple as that. And then tomorrow I get an idea. I just did with 10. Why not I do it with 30? And that means this desire will keep on increasing. And what really it is that after some time you feel disgusted of doing that. Might happen in this life, might not happen at all. How do I know?
Yes.
Right? So that is not the path to take, and not stopping everything and saying that I will never do it again. No, that also will not work.
Yes.
So unless we penetrate truly what it is, this will be a mental exercise between stopping this, doing that, and doing this and stopping that.
And so one observation I particularly have is that sometimes I see a girl, right? I saw a girl on the gym. I saw it was beautiful, so I want to take an extra look. So I immediately, my instinct is to not look. Right? Immediately I try to not look. I used to do that for a while. So even stopping that was hard for first, but sometimes I can do that, right? Because I know Dhamma. But recently I found out even that seemed to go too much into the suppression side, because then I'm not really addressing that karma of wanting to look at that. So I think the better way is to, you can still look, but start contemplating on the say, the karma, right? The four dhatu is the right way. Then
Yes.
asubha bhava. You can look, but then bring that. So
Yes.
that can be addressed right
Yes,
there.
yes. You need to do like that. You just cannot reject something, and that becomes one side of equation, or indulging is another side of equation.
Okay, got it.
Okay, so let me read out your question. I wonder if the ventilators require any active movement from the patient at all. What if it is just pumping air into the lung? In this case, how would one know whether the patient is still trying to breathe or not? This is a very simple case. Are you? I've seen my wife's uncle dying, and we were in the hospital. Unless you really see the life faculty which is there along with your breath, which is going away, it becomes difficult. And it cannot be proven through science or through whatever means. Okay. And if we have seen any person dying with ventilator support, what it really means, it doesn't mean that he is not able to take oxygen, but that he is going away. It's just like you're filling the oxygen into the room, but the person himself is running away. So what would you do?
So I look at the video of the ventilator, how it works. It says it pumps air into your lung, right?
Right.
So even the person is gone, you can still pump it into their lung, right?
You can still keep on doing it.
Okay.
See, I will also give you an example, so it becomes very easy for you. So now I have a friend, and his son was 7-year-old, okay, and he had type 1 diabetes, and then he got into pneumonia. So then they admitted him to the hospital, and then after a few days, the doctor said is that he's brain dead. His cardiac is functioning, but he's brain dead. So they said that you have to remove ventilator support because he's not there. That person is dead. But when you remove it, he is going to have a lot of convulsions because there is before the whole thing.
Yeah, I think you mentioned that. Yes.
Yeah. So now what is the thing? I can keep him on ventilator forever. So the oxygen will be...
Wait, forever. Okay, sure. Go ahead.
Forever in the sense that till the heart stops by itself.
Okay, so in that case, is the heart stopping by itself is the sign of the vijnana leaving the body or not? But what? So because I have this question because you said before that the last breath leaving is a sign that the vijnana is gone, right?
Yes.
But in the ventilator case, I cannot tell because the machine is pumping. So my question is, when exactly is the moment that vijnana leaves?
When that person is said brain dead, at that time itself the vijnana is not there. But what happens here is that there are many levels of things which shuts down.
Okay.
Right? So the shutting down of the system is not just like I take my computer and press and right?
Oh, okay.
So it's slightly complicated in that way. And then that's the reason in the nearest example Buddha has given is in that Sariputta and that monk talking in the Mahavedala Sutta. If you can go through it properly, he explains he exactly asks this question: what's the difference between a dead body and a living body, right? So now he says
right.
Now what has happened here in this person's case is that partially the senses are dead, partially they are alive. Okay. And since the heart is the involuntary equipment which doesn't require brain to function.
I see.
So it is waiting for the inputs from the brain. What really happens here, after some time, it goes into shock and gets into coma. And after some time, it dies. The blood cannot be pumped any longer because the brain is not there to coordinate. Now the question comes that where is the mind situated then? Mind actually is, if you were to really pinpoint and say, it is the head region where you have the mental faculty, but it is connected to heart. So the heart and brain are interlinked.
Right.
Okay. And the five senses are already withdrawn. So there's no way the person knows that what is happening. There's no person. Right.
Okay.
So because of ventilator support, now let's take an example. When there's no ventilator support, then what happens? If that person was not taken to the hospital, then what happens?
It just leaves.
Immediately it leaves. So it's not that it's going to wait, because there is an artificial air pump which is happening. The body seems to be functional, even though it is dysfunctional. It seems to be functional. So then what is leaving? The air is leaving. There is no prana or the pana in Pali. So if we were to go deeper into it, you'll see that then there is a physical, then there is mental. The mental has left, but the physical can still be alive because you are doing an external, just like a tree is almost dead, but then you can put water to it. It seems like it's coming.
Okay.
Something similar to that. Or the video what you had sent, are you about the pig?
Yes.
The life faculty is gone, but there is still that shaking is there, right?
Okay.
It takes time.
I think last time you were explaining, you were saying the Gandhava is trying to leave the body, hence the shaking.
Correct. So now you see, it takes time for it to leave. Okay. Now that shaking is because the vijnana is going off. So as much as vijnana goes off, so much of that shaking will start to stop, because the cells have to die anyway. So at that point of the Buddha Dhamma, they didn't know so much about science of cells and mitochondria and this and that, and the proteins and all that. Now we know much more than what at that time people used to penetrate and see. So we have to add this portion to that to make things feasible to understand. Otherwise, it looks absurd. That, okay, then how that is working? So this question is going to come. Yeah, go ahead.
So let me just clarify. I'm still not 100% clear. So in the case of brain death, let's say there's zero brain activity. It mostly means the vijnana is gone, right? Because if there, even in the vegetable person, there's some brain activity, I suppose.
There is brain. Even the dementia patient, there's a brain activity, even though the brain is completely eaten away by some virus.
Okay. So in the brain death case, the vijnana has moved, but they can still pump air. And you're saying the Hadayavatu is already left.
Hadayavatu is left totally or not, I'm not clear, because there will be some senses which are still able to perceive.
Okay. So you're saying even when the pumping case, when you keep ventilating the person, there will be a moment when you can't ventilate her anymore. Did you say that?
Exactly, because I had seen it in her uncle's case. They pumped for 8 hours. He was brain.
Right. So, okay. So even if you keep pumping, still somewhere you cannot pump. How is that possible? Because you're just forcing the air into it.
No, that's what I'm telling you. There is a limit to do that, right?
Oh, there's a limit.
Because the vijnana is already withdrawn. So the cells are kept on dying. Then what will you pump any longer?
So the muscles start like tightening up to stimulate that person.
Because the person is already not there. So what will you pump? So the earlier ages to now is that you have artificial way of doing things. So you can prolong.
Right. Mm-hmm.
In expectation that the Gandhava is going to come back.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yes. Okay. Oh, yes. Okay. So I guess the exact last breath may not be so obvious in this ventilator case, as you said, because even in the uncle's case, you said there's really a last breath, and that's when the person is gone. But then in the ventilator case, it's slightly more complicated, because even after the last breath, you can maybe still pump a little bit.
Yes, absolutely. So
it's not a bad example.
Yeah, because it's a very bad example to take, to be honest.
Okay.
So wait a second. I need to have lunch and I need to attend ABB meeting. So I think with this we can end for today. and then I will take
Yeah, okay.
what is the experience, emptiness, God experience that is referring. Okay, that we already covered, right? Okay,
Yeah. No, we can stop the YouTube stream now.
No, I'm not
We can
streaming.
stop the YouTube.
No, I'm not streaming. I'm only recording. I didn't stream.
Have you stopped the recording now?